Morning to you again. Thanks for joining us as always. First of all, what did you make of Biden's speech?
The best speech Joe Biden's ever made. And I think it does rank right up there with speeches made at times of great political upheaval in the United States. And I think I'm reaching back now to Reagan's inaugural speech. I'm reaching back to even, don't forgive me for reaching this far perhaps, but Lincoln's second inaugural.
That big?
It is, well, and the circumstances that it's delivered under more to the point.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little earlier, didn't we? The challenges that Lincoln faced leading into the Civil War, and then you had Roosevelt as well leading into the global Great Depression.
Biden in his speech listed 5 or 6 crises that the United States faces right now. It is a time of testing, he said, an attack on democracy, on truth, COVID, growing inequity, the sting of systemic racism, calling that out, mentioning white supremacy in an inaugural speech. I can't ever recall a president going that hard at that persistent element of American public opinion, of American politics and culture and its history, that directly in my lifetime. And he referenced climate change as well, America's role in the world. And Biden said, any one of these would be a challenge to us in profound ways. He comes to office with 5 or 6 huge mountains to climb. And the circumstances of the inauguration, a Washington, D.C. shutdown between security, between COVID, the circumstances of it as well. The thing I'm struck as well, Pete, was the contrast between Trump's extemporaneous remarks at Andrews Air Force Base, where he's struggling to find the words off teleprompter, ad-libbing his farewell, whereas the return to normal transmission, the lofty and inspiring rhetoric that you typically associate with high moments of American politics like this one, and that's what Biden delivered today, a very conventional and reaching high with the rhetoric. That is what we come to expect from American presidents. And I think that as well, this sort of return to normalcy that I think so many people wanted in casting record numbers of votes for Joe Biden, he delivered that reassurance today as well, while at the same time, I think having to acknowledge the unprecedented set of crises that he faces and his administration faces.
Well, let's go to Joe Syracuse now. Joe, did you ever think in all of your years that you would ever see an inauguration quite like the one that we've had today?
No, I didn't. In fact, in 1960, my Catholic high school dragged us to Washington to see John Kennedy's inauguration, which was quite a carnival, as a matter of fact. But look, I want to say something. You know, it did appear normal, and the president's comments were brief, restrained, and presidential. But in a way, Donald Trump was at the inauguration. Keep in mind that Joe Biden, the 46th president, was sworn into office in a militarized zone. A very distinctly unpeaceful transfer of power, as a matter of fact. And that's what the headlines are going to be all around the world. I mean, because of Trump's supporters, the mob that broke into the House, Washington went into this lockdown. We had a president who is sworn in under these extraordinary circumstances. So, you know, it's not a total success for Biden's return to normalcy, because it isn't normal. And by referencing the white supremacists who represent about 1,300 militia groups throughout the United States, these were identified by the FBI 5 or 6 years ago, or particularly in the wake of, maybe even longer, in the wake of the Oklahoma bombings. You know, the federal government is at war with the militias and the patriot groups, which is what they call themselves. So in a way, the president he was there. I mean, because of the fear of his people, because of his encouragement of them. And I don't know if he thought they were going to storm the Capitol, but he sure as hell could have slowed them down once they did so. He didn't make an effort to do that. So I think that's the image I take out of this, is that we have a president who took an oath in a militarized zone, and that should scare the hell out of people, because that tells me that it's not normal, and it's not going to be normal. And all the reporters today who wanted to wear armored vests and things like that were told by the Secret Service they cannot use armored clothing or anything like that, even though they took their targets as we go forward. So America's still in a very precarious place, and Biden's going to have a lot of work settling people down as the federal government goes after these people who raided the Capitol. So it isn't business as normal as much as it, we'd like to assume it was. But mercifully, it was uneventful. So that's what I take out of it today.
So, Simon, on that, I mean, what does Biden do with the 74 million people who voted for Donald Trump? Does he heed their voices? What does he have to do to get them on side?
He said, there's a line in the speech, Pete, where he says, for each of these moments, enough of us have come together to carry all of us forward. And I think if you say the goal, Biden can only be a success if he unites the country, then Biden will not be a success. He does not need to unite the United States. He just needs to have it be less disunited than it is. Let's not set the bar too high. He is in precarious territory. They are prosecuting members of those militia groups. Literally today, as he was being sworn in, the FBI is out there arresting people, including members of the Proud Boys and so on and so forth. They are moving on to what I think will be a swift but an impeachment trial of Donald Trump, and a jolt of Trump oxygen is going to come rushing back in at that moment as well. But I think if he can get some runs on the board with COVID, if he can use that, and he has held that out there as the thing, issue number 1, 2, 3, and 4 he has to deal with. If he can get some runs on the board there, perhaps that is a pathway back from this high state of polarization, of division, spilling right over into violence, as we saw on January 6th. I think we've just got to take a step back from that, thinking that America is going to look like, say, Australia, frankly, or a Scandinavian country in terms of political harmony. Let's not pretend for a moment. That's not the America I know. But can it be less dramatic and less peaked than it's been in recent years? One hopes so.